Hi folks, this is Lee Murphy of artbyleemurphy.com and the artist who makes all the artwork here on this channel. This is not artwork, but I guess maybe you could say it is because this is me in my garden, and I thought I would share this today because it is such a wonderful day, and I've been fixing up my garden, even though if I waited until my garden was in perfect shape I'd never get this done, so I figured now's as good time as any, and just focus on the good stuff. Good point, good philosophy. Right here we're seeing an Ortonique orange here in my front yard, and my point being is I live in an historic district, which is kind of like an HOA on steroids, so you kind of have to be really careful about the things you plant and the way you plant it, so you don't get in trouble with the powers that be that make your life sad when they don't really need to. Anyhow, I was going to show this as an example of trying to be creative and in growing things that are useful and good in your life, and taking some agency and not really understanding or trying to understand that there are things that we can do even in a very limited space. This lot I live on is about 50 feet by 90 feet, but I still managed to grow a lot of things. Behind here is actually a night blooming jasmine. The shampoo ginger is still dormant, it has not come up yet, and then right here we have, I love to grow amaryllis because not only are they pretty plants, but they're fun to sell and trade for other things. Right here is something called a Hoya Santa, or root beer plant. The chickens love to eat it, and once again it's another thing good to trade with and such. But yeah, when I moved in here, there was no grass, no plants, no nothing, and I had to teach myself how to do all this from scratch. And it's an ongoing process, and it's very rewarding too, especially when I can eat the things that I grow in this yard. A spider plant here is supposedly edible. I haven't tried it, so don't quote me on that one. Here is a Miwa kumquat with a few fruits still left on it. More of my amaryllis that I grow from seed, and we'll probably wind up culling a few of these to barter and sell eventually, because once they're real happy they multiply a lot, so I have to get rid of them anyway. Thrown in here is a quince tree. Here is a Kona sugarloaf pineapple. Gonna make some delicious fruit coming up there, just starting. A couple of them are actually getting ready to fruit. Here is a brown turkey fig that is very productive when I can keep the squirrels off of it. Usually I have to put some netting on top of it, and that's a pain because it usually catches a few squirrels and maybe a raccoon or two, and that's usually in the middle of the night, and I don't like doing that. So when I'm motivated to actually protect the tree, I think we got as many as 20 pounds of figs off of that one little tree. Moving right along here. It's a very small garden, but it's really productive, and it's getting better every year. Here is a Hachiya Persimmon. This is the kind that you don't want to eat raw. Once they are ripe, they are super sweet. There's some baby fruit starting there already. I try to mix things in with ornamentals, and we've got bulbs and all kinds of things in here. Here is a Wachita, I think that's how you pronounce it, blackberry, thornless, which is great in such a small yard, and it's the most productive piece of plant that I have right now because apparently the varmints leave it alone. And here is Leonotis, lion's ear, beautiful flowers, supposed to make a really good calming tea. I tried it, it's disgusting. I might have to get rid of it, but the hummingbirds really love it, so far it stays there. And more ornamentals. And here is a Fuyu persimmon. These are the ones that you can eat right off the tree, and they're delicious. And for the most part, varmints leave those alone too. Here is comfrey. It doesn't like the hot weather, but it copes. And then I have more things like Panuta, which is hulless oats for the cats and the chickens to eat. We've got nasturtiums. I've got watermelons and Charente melons coming in there. And and garlic chives, flowering buckwheat for the bees, more different annual vegetables coming up in the mulch bed. It took me a long time to figure out that in Florida sandy soil you can grow a lot of things, but not as much as you might in other hot areas because the sandy soil is so bad. So I finally, after years, learned how to build up my soil, and plants become a whole lot more resilient because of it. And I'm like, well, okay, eventually I learn these lessons, so maybe this will help other people too. Now here is an Owari Satsuma, super sweet, nice small plant, stays small, pretty productive. More little space for more annuals to be plugged in there, more annual vegetables, mind you. Louisiana iris coming in. And the bees really love this. Is dragon tail radish, the second sowing, and I've got lettuces in there, mint. I'm trying to think, a couple basil plants coming up as one early sowing of vegetables ripens, the other stuff comes right up through it, so I don't have to worry about filling in spaces. Here is variegated mugwort, more mint, another homegrown amaryllis with more pineapples coming up. A lot of pineapples this year. They all seem to be doing their thing. Elephant plant, more stuff that I'm staging for plant swaps. Somebody gave me some wonderful fresh cut oakwoods for my, I bartered for some shiitake mushroom plugs, and that's my next plant growing project. So I have a shady space in the yard. I'll give that a try. Back to this. This is a self-watering planter I built on the design idea of globalbuckets.org, trying to make something a little bit more roomy and possibly more, it doesn't look quite as bad as the buckets do, and a lot more UV resistance, as the buckets tend to crumble a lot. Kitty. There's a cat. Now these are earthbox planters full of stuff. We got garlic, dill, cilantro, basil, 2 different colors of potatoes. Gosh, what else we got in there? Stevia, more oats, broccoli rabe. Here's a close-up of an earlier planting of these dragon tail radishes, which are delicious. And unlike regular radishes, you eat the seed pods and not the roots, so you don't kill the plant. You can keep eating and get more use out of it. Gosh, I forgot all the things that are in there. I'll probably remember it later after I finish shooting this video. Here's a lotus grown from seed, another thing I like to do. Every part of a lotus is edible, but usually what I do is divide the roots and trade or sell them. A little bit of a side hustle here. Over here, little tiny side yard. Daylilies are edible. I've got corn plants I'm trying here. It has a new variety of corn that I'm not sure if I'll use it or not, but now's a good time to find these things out. Elderberry, not sure if that's going to be worth the space it takes up, but got to give it a try. And I've got 2 different colors of sweet potato. We've got purple sweet potato and dwarf Puerto Rico sweet potato. Purple, I forgot what kind of regular potatoes they are, and then red fingerlings, and a Chickasaw plum tree, and another dwarf variety of thornless blackberry. So I have things in pots over here that will fill in the spaces of things that I cull out that aren't as productive. I've got perennial onions in here, more corn, and it's my first flush of all these amaryllis I grew from seed are starting to fade, and they'll be blooming. Different kinds of them will be blooming for the next month or so, so it's nice to get them. They don't all bloom at once. It makes it nice. More onions, watermelon coming up, Charente melons, Kajari melons. Give those all a try. We've got lemongrass back in there. We've got Okinawa spinach, more dragon tail radishes with other tomatoes and things coming up between them. Seems like I've timed it pretty well this time. As these things finish their job, other things come up. And an heirloom rose that I use to make my nan's rose petal jam out of. More seed grown amaryllis. I'll wind up picking through some of those and getting rid of them. And back over here. figure, well, not every part of this garden looks great, but apparently when Monet was working in Giverny, not every part of his garden looked great. He just made everything look good with the part that he was painting and left the rest go. And here we have, I don't know how to pronounce this, is Yabutika plant. Looks like big grapes that grow on the stems. Behind there is Pigeon Pea, which is a good nitrogen fixer, and it's a perennial vegetable. More nasturtiums and flowering buckwheat that the bees just love. I've got more onions and red shallots in there, peas. This is actually kava kava, which I experimented with, and I don't know what the big deal is with kava kava because it tastes like dirt mixed with water. So that might wind up going somewhere else. More amaryllis, fun things to play, and it's just kind of stick more edible things in there with peppers, more mint, more edible rosebush. And then here was my problem I have with the global buckets. Are really a good idea. I can grow vegetables and stuff on a hot driveway in the self-watering planters, but as you can see here with the banana that I'm growing here, after a while they get brittle in the sun, so now I have to replace all that. And besides, they kind of, hey kitty, kind of just don't really look that attractive. So what I ended up doing is experimenting with these planters, and they seem to be doing okay for now. I got a lot of tomatoes in there, peppers, more melons, purple tomatillo, probably 3 different varieties of tomatoes, and so far so good on that one. And hey kitty, just something good fun to look at in a small garden. And over here I have tea jasmine, more ornamental things, just kind of liven things up a little bit. There's the chicken house, where you can hear them tootling along here. Ruby Toot Squeak and Eunice Underfoot live there. Right next to my greenhouse is a black Spanish grapevine. Has been really successful for me. It's one of the few bunch grapes that actually grow here in the south, and if I can keep the varmints away from them, it makes a really good jam. I still haven't cleaned the greenhouse out yet, which still has my coffee plants and my orchids in there, and behind there is a yuzu lemon tree. So anyhow, just trying to use this as an example of how even in a small garden with certain restrictions, you can still get a lot out of this. I can manage to grow most of the herbs that I use all year long. Don't have to buy any dill, cilantro, basil, onions, stuff like that. And when I get enough, if I manage to keep the varmints away from my fruit trees, I have enough to make enough jams to last me all year. So it's a little bit, it's not much, but it's a start. Anyhow, hopefully that was useful, and thank you for watching.